Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to In the Loop with Lupus in Color. We are here today for our first In the Loop for 2025, and I'm so excited with our guest that is here today to share their lupus story. I'm using a new program to try and share with YouTube as well as Facebook so you all can let me know how it is. I'm looking at both and it looks kind of good to me, and I'm hoping that you can hear me. Okay. So I'm so excited to be here with you today. Happy Lupus Awareness Month. My name is Raquel Dozier. I am the founder of Lupus in Color. And we have a special guest today. Her name is Semi Watson, and she's going to share her lupus story with us with the In the Loop Lupus Live with Lupus in Color. So I'm excited to get started, and I want to be respectful of her time because she does have other things that she needs to do tonight. So I'm going to bring her on up. Give me 1 minute so I can figure it out. Hi there.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am great. I'm so glad you let me be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you agreed to come on with us. I'm excited to hear your story. And let's get started because I know that you have something else that you need to do tonight. So I don't want to hold you too long.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about who you are. Give us your name, give us your rank, give us everything. And let me know when you were diagnosed with lupus and how it all came about.
Got it. Okay. So I'm Semi. I am the founder of Light for Lupus. I was diagnosed with lupus in 2013. I was having a lot of chest pains, and when I finally was like, let me go get this checked out, I think I waited a little too late. When doctors finally, did so many different tests, they didn't know what was going on. And finally, when I told them, they was like, do you have any like conditions? And I didn't really think arthritis was worth mentioning
Right.
until I was like, well, I have rheumatoid arthritis. And it was like a light bulb went off for them.
Wow.
And that's when they realized that I was having something going on, with my immune system. My heart wasn't pumping properly. It was fluid building up around it, and lupus was attacking my lungs as well.
Wow.
So when doctors finally was like, okay, we need to go in and drain this fluid, my lungs ended up collapsing, and
Oh,
I was placed on life support for a while and kind of had to learn how to regain my strength and how to navigate my whole life all over. It was definitely a journey for me. It's still a journey. It was new. It was a challenge. No one in my family had ever talked about lupus, heard of it. It was kind of just like a what is this and what do we do with it type of thing.
right.
So since then, I've been learning how to navigate. I'm still having certain challenges with pushing myself, and I know I should probably slow down.
You're right.
But I still haven't learned how to fix that yet. But it's progress. Like we're gonna get
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting now. If you don't mind me asking, what age were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 21. I had just turned 21, and
Wow.
they didn't think to look for certain things because of my age. They were like, she doesn't smoke, she doesn't drink, she doesn't do this. We're like, they didn't know what was wrong.
Hmm.
I remember them shutting me into like the glass ICU room, and they were like thinking it was tuberculosis because the way I was like, my temperature was kept rising, my heart rate wouldn't go down. It was to the point where they were like, we're going to have to rush you to another facility that's better equipped.
Wow.
So they ended up taking me from one hospital to another. And by the time I got to the other one, they were just like, what did they do to you?
Wow.
Because now they have to fix everything that went wrong,
Right.
there. So it was
Absolutely.
really complicated, blood transfusions, and I didn't leave the hospital the same way I came in.
Mm,
I left a completely different person.
wow. Explain that. You went in extremely sick,
Hmm.
obviously, and you came out with a different lease on life, I imagine.
I came out, I didn't recognize myself when I looked in the mirror.
Wow.
And the thing is, my mom knew that I was going to panic when I realized what the steroids was doing. Most of the time I was asleep, but I remember waking up because my arms were strapped to the bed. And I was like, what's going here,
Mm.
but they said I kept trying to take out the tube that was, down the
Wow.
throat. So they had to put my arms down. Um, I didn't realize that part of my body was, in a sense, paralyzed. Like I couldn't operate one side. I was just like, I don't know why
Hmm.
it's not working.
Right.
Um, by the time I left, I had to use a walker. I was leaving with oxygen tanks that was bigger than me. Um, Tons of medications that I was just like, what do I do with all of this?
Right.
It was definitely taking a lot to get used to. And I didn't recognize myself. My clothes didn't fit. I was probably 25
Mm.
pounds heavier than what I was before I came in. And I
Some of
was
the steroids.
95 pounds when I went in. I come out like, what is happening? So it was a lot to have to deal with mentally and physically, because being on life support, not moving around, your body becomes so weak. Your body's tired. It wasn't working with me at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't even imagine how at 21, how that must have felt for you.
Yeah, it was.
If
And I
that's,
think more so the effect I saw that it was having on my family pushed me
bothered
to get
you.
better faster,
Mm.
which is why I feel like a lot of things, like even now, 10 years, 11 years later, when I have my flare ups, I notice mine always attacks my lungs
Mm.
with my breathing. My breathing is always horrible
Right.
because I never properly learned how to breathe the right way again. I got used to breathing shallow. I got used to kind of like panting for air. So
Right.
when I'm flaring up, it's like this is bad. But I
Yeah.
think I wanted to get better so bad because I didn't want people to see me in a way. It was like, no, I don't need this. No, I don't need that. And it was like, you're making yourself worse. Like,
Right. Calm down.
so, right. That's how it was for me.
Yeah, I can understand that because I mean, especially at that age, because you're like, hey, hold on now, I'm too young for all this
Right.
nonsense. I can get up, I
Right.
can do this, I can do that. So as you've been living with lupus, what have you learned along the way from the first time that you were diagnosed
Mhm.
to maybe a year ago? What has changed in your life, and what have you learned from those changes?
The biggest thing that I haven't learned is to learn the difference between pain and discomfort.
Hey, hey,
I sat home so long thinking that I was just in discomfort, like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, this is achy. It's like, no, your body is collapsing on you right now, and you
right,
don't even realize what's happening. So that's always been kind of one of those things like, when do I go to the hospital? Do I stay home? Can I treat this?
right,
Like, what do I do?
yeah,
And that's probably been the biggest piece for me, is learning how to navigate the two. And also saying no. No is a complete sentence.
hello,
Doctors don't like the word no at all. I don't want to take that. I don't want to do it.
right, right.
Researching my own medications, researching other treatments has helped me tremendously, because
Mm.
I wasn't vocal. I see this doctor with a clipboard and a computer that's barely looking up at me, and they're like, okay, you need this, and that. But why do I need this stuff? Like,
Right, right,
tell me why I need it. What is it going to do? Well, we're
right,
going to see if it fixes this. We're going to see. I'm not a
right.
guinea pig. But I
Mhm.
understand you have to go through, different ones to find what works for you. But it
Right,
was kind of like I had to take the time to find a healthcare physician that actually listened to me,
right. Oh yeah, oh
and that's still hard at times because I still tell them no. But
yeah.
that's been the biggest thing, advocating for myself, doing my own research, and just not
Mm.
allowing myself to just be pushed around because I'm
Ooh,
another patient on a clipboard.
yeah, I love that. I love how you said not allowing yourself to be pushed around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at 21, I guess you could have kind of felt like overwhelmed with the doctors
Mhm.
because you don't know much what's going on. So
Right.
I liked how you evolved to a point where you're
Right.
like, no, sir, you're gonna have to
It was
talk to me
bad.
and let me know what's going on.
Right. It was rough. It was definitely rough because it was new to me.
Hmm.
I'm used to going to the doctor for a checkup, a cold, not something chronic, not something that's not going away. You can't
Right,
give me, pills for 7 days and your nose will stop running. It's
right,
not like that with lupus.
Yeah.
A challenge for me has been also like setting those boundaries
Mhm.
for myself. You know, I hate letting people down. I hate saying, "Oh yeah, I'll be there," and then 3 hours later, I can't get out of the bed.
Yep.
You know, with my lupus, it came other things came with it. You know, fibromyalgia,
Mhm.
Sjogren's, Raynaud, all this other stuff came like out of
Right.
a suitcase. Like, who unpacked you?
Right. Who
I
let
didn't
you
pack
in?
this stuff. So
Right.
that's been my challenge is learning to say no, not just to doctors, but to people as well, because it's like you can't keep pushing yourself to the limit.
Yeah, yeah. And it's important to set those boundaries with others as well as yourself. And you are
Right,
absolutely right about that. It's hard to learn that though. It really
right,
is. It really
right.
is. And
It
then
is.
once you learn it, you have to put it into practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little difficult as well.
Right,
Awesome.
definitely.
When were you living at home when you were diagnosed, or and how did your parents help you through that?
Well, I was away at college and I started noticing things wasn't right. So I transferred to a school closer to home so I could stay with my
Okay.
mom. And you know, I have a younger brother who, and during my initial, you know, something was wrong, I was like, oh, my chest hurts. You know, that morning when it was time to go to school, I was in class. I could barely finish my midterms. It was like I literally had to leave. I was like, I can't finish this. I collapsed on my desk. I was like, I gotta go.
Ooh.
So when I got home, I noticed like my balance was off. It was almost like I was getting the flu. I was sweating.
Mm.
I wasn't hungry. I was like, what is wrong with me?
Right.
And
Right.
I remember feeling like I had ran a marathon, and my mom was like, "You need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the doctor." You
Mm.
know, and I didn't think anything was wrong, so I was like, "I'll be all right. It's
Right.
probably heartburn. It's indigestion." It was not neither one of those. It
Right.
was
It was something so
something.
much more
Yeah,
serious, right?
yeah. But coming home from that, my mom and dad are very like they aren't coddlers. They aren't. They're like, okay,
I
this is
get it.
what's going on with you.
Hmm.
Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And it was to the point where I adapted so much of that in me.
Sure.
I think I made my healing process a little worse because when I had the in-home nurses coming to help me, gain the strength in my legs, I was like, I don't need you guys. I got this.
Right.
I needed them.
Yeah.
I needed them.
Absolutely.
But I
Absolutely.
I wanted to do it myself. I was so determined to get it done my way and not their way, which
Yeah.
I probably should have did it their way.
I
But
don't know. I don't know if you should have done it. I think as a parent myself, I think that if I would have seen that in you, I would have thought that your mindset was in the right
yeah,
place to
right,
be able to just put it in your mind that I want to do this.
right,
So I mean, it happened the way it should have happened because you're here
yeah,
today to talk about it, right?
right,
So,
right.
but I definitely get it when you say that you adapt to what your parents have given you,
Hmm.
and that probably it might have helped you more than it hurt you. You
It
know,
probably did because I was standing firm. I was watching what they were doing in therapy, and I'm like, I can do this at home. I don't have the weights, but I got some cans in the kitchen. I'm gonna lift these
I
can of
love it.
corns to get myself, and that's what I did every day.
I love it. I love it.
I had my room was upstairs, and I made myself go up and down, whether it was 3 steps a day, but I didn't want to get comfortable with staying on the bottom level, and
Sure,
because
sure.
I could have, but I didn't
How would
want
that
to.
help you? Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I needed to push myself to see how far I could go.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I love that about you because it's going to transform into everything that you do in life. So I love that you had that mindset and that your parents instilled that in you.
Right.
Like I said, it probably helped you more than it hurt you. So I'm gonna look at this little. I'm gonna look to see if somebody was talking on. Someone said Sarah said it's really hectic on day to day activities. We should get the way to come out of this soon. Not sure
Yeah.
what that means, but we get what she's saying though.
Yeah.
So it's definitely hard day to day. So
Hmm.
that's a great tie into what I wanted to go into next, and that's how do you cope? How do you cope day to day? Now that you've learned what you learned from being diagnosed to coming to where you are in this moment and overcoming those things, How
Right.
do you cope day to day? What do you do to help yourself cope?
Well, that was part of the reason why I started Light for Lupus.
Hmm.
Because when I realized the treatment that I was getting and how I was allowing doctors to kind of handle me, I didn't like it. And I realized I'm not the only one going through this.
Right.
So it helps me feel better when I'm helping other people use their voice. Um, I started Light for Lupus to shine light onto the illness. You know, most people hear about lupus, and when they find out what it is, everyone is always like, oh man, oh my gosh, like I hate you going through this. And I hate it too. But honestly, being diagnosed with lupus pushed me in a way that I wasn't pushing myself before.
Mm.
It challenged
Mm.
me to say, okay, I may not be able to do this way, but
Right.
there's a way around it to get it done.
Absolutely.
And so I'm trying to teach others to use their voice to advocate for themselves. But most importantly, when I went to college, I went to school to be a teacher. And when I was doing early childhood, working with kindergartners, and I was constantly getting sick every week. I couldn't, and it really bothered me because I didn't do the job for the money. I didn't care about what I made. I just loved kids.
Right.
But it bothered me that I couldn't do that anymore. So I
Right.
was like, how can I help them? So with lupus, children are diagnosed as well.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, what's the way that I can still connect with the youth to get them to understand their journey, to how to explain it. As an adult, a lot of us don't speak to our physicians the correct way. They'll say, my arm hurts. Okay, is it joint pain? Is
Right.
it nerve pain?
Right.
Is it muscle? So I'm teaching them the vocabulary to use for this, because it's not going to go away. With one chronic illness comes another. So I've really learned to put my focus into something positive versus focusing on what all lupus has taken away from me. Because lupus has
Mm.
taken a lot. I've lost a lot of friends that's been diagnosed with it.
Right.
I've lost friends who don't even have it because I can't do the things that we used to do. It's like, I can't. um, I just, I don't know. I think I try to just uplift myself. I do a lot of self talk every
Yeah.
morning. I'm like, all right, baby girl, we gotta get out this bed. We gotta do this
Right.
today. It's
I love
like,
it.
I
I
do that
love
a
it.
lot. But, if I focus on how much I've lost with lupus, I
Yeah.
will continue to lose.
Yeah.
My hair is coming out in like clumps. So I was like, okay, I got a solution for this. Let's go cut it off. Let's go bleach it.
There
Let's
you
go take
go.
some pictures. Like I try to get
I love
ahead of
it.
the game before it
Absolutely.
gets to that point. But people
Absolutely.
look at it like, oh, she's making a power statement. She's cut all her hair off. And it's like, no, I'm really just coping with it's
Yeah.
falling out, but you don't see that part of it.
Right. Right.
Those are the things that try to help me by saying, okay, how can I turn this to a different way. With
Yeah.
Life for Lupus, I document my journey. I document my appointments, my infusions, but I also document me going on trips. I'm
There you
I'm
go.
jet skiing. I'm jumping into whatever. Like I
Yeah,
live.
girl.
If I'm feeling good, I'm going, and I want to show people like it's not a death sentence.
Right.
You can make so much out of your life, even with this diagnosis, but it starts mentally. You know,
Say it again.
it
Say it again
starts
for people in the back. Yeah.
yes, mentally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it really does. It's a mindset. I know that we're in pain most days, I, but pain doesn't last always,
Right,
and
right,
sometimes we have to train our brain to show that we can take control of that pain and not
right,
see it as the same pain as it was when we first got it.
right,
So
right.
I see a question in the chat box here. So I'm going to ask this question. I think you've already answered it. Kimberly says, are you the only one in your family with the diagnosis?
I actually have on my mother's side, I have a younger cousin who was diagnosed sort of a little either right before I was, or if he was diagnosed and they just didn't talk about it because no one knew what it was. But he's like 5 years younger than me. He was diagnosed very young though. Like a lot other things came with him with like sickle cell and things of that sort. But we're the only two special
Special one.
people.
I
And
love
on
it.
my father's side, there's a set of identical twins, but only one of them is diagnosed with it.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Very
Hmm.
interesting. I do feel like there's some type of gene pool
Mhm.
that it runs in, especially in the Black community. It could be,
Right.
I'm not a scientist, but it could be from the way we were brought over to this country, what we were
Yeah.
fed, how our body was created in those
Right.
arenas. So,
Right.
Sarah, is it? Nope, it's Sexy Cruise on Instagram says, I push myself too much. Now I'm sick again. How do I get help for me? What advice would you give Sexy Cruise? She done pushed herself too
Just
much.
push
Now
yourself. Everybody's different. For me, when I push myself too much, and it's like, okay, now sit down. I feel like it makes me worse because now that I'm sitting, now I'm stiff. Now I'm like, but it's like I try to still move a little bit when I can,
right,
but just slow down.
right,
Slow down.
absolutely. I agree.
I don't know if you're taking, certain medications. I've kind of like weaned myself off a lot of them.
Hmm.
But take
Hmm.
them as needed and drink water. Like I just slow down.
Yeah,
Go to sleep.
yeah.
Slow down. Tell people no.
Sit your butt down, right?
Yes. Just take a chill pill. Just because
Yeah,
it's different for everyone. Like I said, when I finally do stop moving and I'm sitting, I'm worse.
right.
Because with the fibromyalgia, it's more so muscle.
Hmm.
With my lupus, it more so is like I said, my heart and lungs. I deal with that side of it,
Right,
and
right.
it's kind of hard to pinpoint which is bothering. Is it arthritis? Is it lupus? With the joint swellings. But I honestly feel like lupus is managed by the medications and whatnot, but
Hmm.
fibromyalgia is the worst for me
Yeah,
because when it cranks up, it does not stop.
yeah, yeah. And then couple that with the lupus, it just makes it so difficult to deal with.
Right.
I know you said that you were very active and you go on vacation. So Sarah on IG wants to know, how do you manage going out in the sun?
Um, I try to do like the sunscreen and whatnot. I don't think that the sun bothers me as much as it bothers others. I have started to notice that I'm getting a new thing like with the butterfly rash. It hasn't fully like developed, but I'll get like certain spots, and I'm like, okay, what do I put here? Like,
Right.
but the sun doesn't
Not
bother me as bad.
okay. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'll say for me, Sarah, um, I would say that I have chronic hives, so it's kind of hard to really be in the sun for long periods of time, but I do take a lot of breaks. And then sometimes, like you, I overdo it and end up, 5 days in the house because I can't go out
Right.
because I've got rashes all over my skin. But you just have to learn your body. And like you said, if you're using journals and you're tracking your symptoms and you're tracking your food, it really makes a difference. Do you do stuff like that as well?
I do. Um, I've noticed like over the past 7 years, that's probably when it started. I started getting random swelling. Like my lips will just swell up as if someone punched me in the face. It's like
Hmm.
it'll be fine. Like I'm like, maybe am I allergic to something? So
Right.
I was, writing down things that I ate. I'm like, okay, I ate this today. That's not really out of my ordinary. I got allergy tests done, and they're just like, your body's allergic to itself. With lupus, your body is releasing histamine for no reason, and we don't know why. So take an allergy pill every day. I'm not
Mm.
taking an allergy pill every day. For what?
Right. Right.
I don't drink enough water that's gonna help with the drying out thing. So it's like, okay, well, I don't really have a exact reason for why this is happening. But like I said, the sun doesn't bother me as much. But the random swelling that
Yeah.
occurs, especially in the face area, if I
It's
knew
like
how to
out of the
fix that,
blue. Right. Yeah, it's like out of
yeah,
the blue. Here you go. Here's a
right.
swollen lip. You know.
Right. My fear is right now it's swelling, my lips. It may be the side here or the bottom one here
Hmm.
under my eyes. What happens if it progresses to my throat?
Mm.
No one has an answer for why this is happening. So it's like I have to walk around with like an EpiPen every day just,
Mm.
to be on the safe side. But, traveling with lupus is definitely,
A task.
yeah, I have to pack a whole separate bag filled with stuff that I know I'm going to need. I'm going to need creams for this. I'm going to need pills for that for pain. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It,
It
it
it is.
definitely takes
It
planning.
is. It is. It is. It's a lot to deal with, and it's the unpredictability is just so hard to deal with.
Right,
And
right.
there's a local lupus warrior, a good friend of mine, has the same issues with that swollen lip out of the blue. It's just like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
And it's probably, even though we say that we don't know what it is, it might be stress. It could be the smallest little things that stress us out that cause those little inflammation,
right,
little activities. So I'm
right.
starting to wrap up because I know you have something to do after this. And I wanted to get on, let's see, we have Yo Yo from Riverdale said, "Good evening, fellow warriors." She's watching from Riverdale. And she also says she gets the random, oh, yes, the severe itching, hives all
Oh
the time.
gosh.
Talk
Oh
about it, girl.
yes, I am so tired of that. Yes, it happens. It hasn't happened in a while, so let me not speak it up.
Right.
But when
Right.
it starts, nothing helps.
Nothing.
I've tried like cold showers. I've tried
Right.
certain like what is it called, like numbing cream, aspirin creams. All
Right. The
I've tried so many
lidocaine.
different things, and I'm in the bed all greasy, and it's just like so
She's
I'm
all
ready.
messed up now.
Yes, it's rough. It's awful.
Yeah, yeah. It
It's
can be
awful.
so
It's
hard. It's so random. It's another thing that's just so random. That itching is just
yes,
ridiculous.
yes, it
So
is.
I want to be respectful of your time. So I have one more question for you.
Uh-huh.
If you could give any of our lupus warriors out there that are listening some advice, give
Mhm.
me three pieces of advice that you would give a lupus warrior today.
Mhm. Well, again, the first one is learn the difference between pain and discomfort.
Mhm.
Know your symptoms. Write your symptoms down. I have really bad brain fog. I have the memory of a goldfish. I don't remember anything. Write down stuff. If you notice, like Monday, this happened, write it down, track it, keep track of how many times this is happening. Is it because you drank this or you ate that?
Right,
Sometimes those things are the reason why it happens.
right.
The next thing I would say is speak up for yourself.
Mm,
Advocate. If you don't feel comfortable with something, you read about side effects or you feel this way, there are alternatives. And if your doctor is not listening to you or try to make you feel small, you don't have to go to them every day. It's someone else out there that does the same thing.
yeah,
Just
absolutely.
advocate for yourself. And I'm just really big on like doing my own research.
Mm,
I don't have all the answers, but I can honestly say I've been doing a really good job of treating myself and maintaining, that sense
mm,
of normalcy that I have now adapted. But
mhm.
yeah, do your own research so you can understand what is happening or why certain things are happening so you'll know.
Right.
Have questions, write down questions that you may have for your doctors,
Mhm.
or reach out to other lupus warriors because you just never know what they experience may help you.
Absolutely.
One thing that I am working on that I do want to throw in is I'm writing children books for lupus awareness. I want children to be able to understand the proper terminology to use, when talking
Mhm.
to their doctors.
That's a good.
I recently just wrote a book. It is should be on Amazon hopefully by next month. I'm been dealing with their publishing. It's just been a task.
Yeah,
But
it is.
if you follow me on Instagram at Light for Lupus, you'll see more updates there of book releases and things of that sort. I plan to continue to grow in that area because I want to offer support for not just children that has lupus. I want what if there's a child that has lupus or doesn't have lupus and their parent does. What can they do to assist?
Mhm.
Or a spouse that their spouse has lupus, like how can you help them understand what's going on? you
Absolutely.
know I think that that's not talked about enough. I feel like a lot of people, like I said, look at the negatives when it comes to lupus. They look at what we go through, but it also has an effect on our family and the people that love us
Yeah.
because they don't know unless you say something. but also don't over abuse it. You know, every
Mm.
time I don't want to do the laundry, I'm not gonna say I don't feel good. I
It's
can't
all
do
good
it.
to
You know,
listen.
I try not to. I try to only use it when I definitely have to, and I hate
Absolutely.
for it to feel like I'm using lupus as a cop out. That's probably one of my biggest issues because honestly, you do have a condition. Something is wrong with you.
Right.
You know, it doesn't mean that you can't do this, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
You know, take your time,
Yeah.
slow yourself down, pace yourself.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I love that. I love everything that you said. I think that what you're doing with being an author for children's books to teach them how to speak for themselves is so important. It's so
Yeah.
important. And that children's book is probably going to spill over to adulthood because sometimes we need it as simple as
Mhm.
children to take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear about a book coming out. What's the name of the book that
Luna
we?
and the Tiny Superhero. So basically,
Oh,
it's
I
about a
love
little
it.
girl going to school and she has to share a fact about herself. And she, you know, hear everyone else
Mm.
and she explains lupus as a tiny superhero that's confused in her body.
I explain it like
And
that all the
that,
time.
that's
I love
basically
it.
what it is.
I love it. I love that. I love that. Luna and the tiny superhero. So
Yes,
you know what, everybody, make sure that you're looking out for that, and make sure that you send it to me so I can post it so people can get it
definitely.
and really support you. I love that you're doing that for other children. I love it.
Definitely.
I love
Thank you.
it. If
Definitely.
you can leave us with just one thing,
Uh-huh.
what would it be?
Be you. Don't let lupus have you ashamed. You know, I know you may not look how you are used to seeing yourself. That was one thing that took me a while to get used to. Prednisone had my weight up and down. There were days where I was so fatigued where I couldn't eat, so I was really, really down. You know, I'm the weight, the hair. It's just be you, accept you, or every version of you.
Mm, I love
You
that.
know, because it's gonna constantly. I may not look like this in 2 weeks. I don't know. I could look like I got a swollen lip. I got hives, but it's still me. It's like, are you not going to go out in public because you have a swollen lip? I've accepted it now. So I will go to places. I may look like a battered woman, but I go because I know I'm not. You know, it's like it's
Yeah.
you. The worst someone's going to do is just stare
Yeah.
back
Yeah. And if they ask something, hey, let's have a conversation about what lupus
to
is.
educate.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I
Yep.
love it. I love it. Leslie said before I let you go, Leslie said, can it be ordered directly from Amazon? Will it be able to be ordered directly from Amazon? The book?
It should be. I'm letting them do the publishing with them. I have to finalize one last thing that they sent back for sizing, but after that, it'll be shipped directly through Amazon.
Awesome. 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 Everybody on Instagram is saying that's great. They can't wait to get it. Great information. Um, I'm sorry, I have to read this one. Yo Yo says she's used Vicks for for the itching, and I'm thinking that's kind of interesting. I might have to try that.
She said she used what did she use?
Vicks,
Vicks
yeah,
vapor rub.
vapor
Okay,
rub. She said yes. I put Vicks vapor rub on my legs, girl.
you
Now
know
that's
what? I
what
got
it
some in the bathroom. I will try it. I will
right,
try it.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. But I want to thank you for
Yes,
allowing me to share your story with other lupus warriors. Your story is so compelling, and I'm so glad that you are here with us. And I hope that we continue to talk with each other and
yes.
work with each other. And I can't wait to read the book and share it out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on with us. And I hope that you have a great evening.
All right. Thank you guys.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We have had a great conversation, and I hope that you enjoyed Mrs. Watson's story. And I hope that you are able to join us again on, I believe it is March 12th, where we'll have another lupus warrior that will be able to tell their story. If you're interested in telling your story, don't hesitate to reach out to me at lupusincolor@gmail.com. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I so appreciate you all coming and tuning in and supporting all of our lupus warriors that come on. So don't forget to follow Semi on Light for Lupus on IG and look out for her book. And I hope to see you again soon. Thanks a lot for tuning in.